All right, if you watch any kind of high-level sports, you have definitely seen this. You know, the star player grimacing as they lower themselves into a tub packed with ice water. It looks, well, it looks awful. So, what's the deal? Is this freezing cold plunge the secret to peak performance, or is it a risky habit that could backfire?
Here's the game plan for today. We're going to start with why this is such a thing in the first place. Then we'll get into the actual science of how cold helps with soreness. After that, we'll look at the perfect recipe for an ice bath, because you gotta do it right. Then comes the really interesting part, the long-term trade-off, before we wrap up by seeing how it stacks up against other recovery methods.
So first up, let's talk about why this icy plunge has become such a standard, almost non-negotiable part of the routine for so many top-tier athletes.
I mean, that's the real question, isn't it? These are people whose entire lives are about optimizing performance. We're talking about diet, sleep, training. Everything is dialed in. So why on earth would they choose to do something that looks so painful? There's got to be a really, really good reason.
And you can see here, this is not some fringe trend. We're talking about the most brutal, high-intensity sports out there. College football, pro basketball, the Olympics, you name it. In these worlds where a fraction of a second can be the difference between winning and losing, athletes and their trainers are all in on this. They're convinced it gives them an edge.
Okay, so what is actually happening inside the body when an athlete takes that plunge? Let's get into the science, the real physiological payoff that makes all that shivering worth it.
And here it is. This is the big one. The science is pretty solid on this. Cold water immersion works. It really does reduce that I can't walk down the stairs kind of muscle soreness you feel after a hard workout. And get this, that feeling of relief can last for up to 4 days. That's huge compared to just sitting around and doing nothing.
So how does it work? Well, it's basically a three-pronged attack. First, the intense cold causes what's called vasoconstriction. That just means your blood vessels clamp down tight, which is great for reducing swelling. Second, it slows your whole metabolism down, which kind of hits the brakes on inflammation. And third, it actually numbs your nerves a bit, blocking the pain signals from ever reaching your brain.
Now, here's the cool part. This isn't just a feeling. It's not just in your head. We can actually measure the effects in your blood. There's a marker called Creatine Kinase, or CK, that scientists use to track muscle damage. The more damage, the more CK you have. And studies show that cold water immersion measurably lowers those CK levels. It's real, verifiable proof.
But you can't just jump into a cold shower and expect miracles. To get all these amazing benefits, you have to follow the rules. The science is very clear that the protocol, the how-to, is absolutely critical.
And this right here is the cheat sheet. The research points to a very specific sweet spot. First, you got to get in right after your exercise. Don't wait around. Then, the duration. The magic number is somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes. Any less isn't enough. Any more doesn't help. And finally, temperature. You're aiming for a pretty chilly 52 to 59 degrees Fahrenheit.
You know, I love this analogy. It's perfect. Think about it. If you use water that's too cool, or you leave the tea bag in for 30 seconds, you get weak brown water, not tea. It's the same exact principle here. You have to get the time and temperature just right to get the result you want.
Okay, so this all sounds great so far, right? But, and this is a really big but, this is where the story gets complicated. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. There's a serious trade-off, what you could call the recovery paradox.
So here's the conflict, laid out plain and simple. In the short term, you get that fantastic relief. You feel better, you're less sore, you think you're recovering faster. But the long-term cost could be massive. It might actually be slowing down your strength gains and stopping your muscles from growing over time.
So why? What's going on? Well, it turns out that inflammation we're trying so hard to kill, it's actually a good thing. It's the body's natural signal to start the repair process. It's what tells your muscles, hey, we need to rebuild bigger and stronger. When you jump in an ice bath, you're basically telling that signal to shut up.
This is such a great way to think about it. The ice bath is like a foreman screaming, "Everybody freeze!" It stops the immediate mess and chaos, which feels good. But if you keep hitting that pause button, the construction crew, your body's natural repair system, never gets the chance to come in and actually build a stronger structure.
So, keeping this huge trade-off in mind, let's zoom out. Let's look at the bigger picture and ask, where does the ice bath actually fit in the grand scheme of recovery methods?
This chart is pretty revealing. Okay, so compared to just sitting on the couch doing nothing, what we call passive rest, yeah, the ice bath is way, way better. But look closer. It's not really any more effective than what's called active recovery,
which is just doing something light, like going for a walk or a slow spin on a bike.
So here's the final report card. Is it better than doing nothing? Yes, for sure. Is it about the same as just going for a walk? Looks like it. Is it better than getting a massage? The jury's still out. And the biggest takeaway, the giant red X on the report, is that it can mess with your long-term goals of getting bigger and stronger.
And that really brings us to the final question you have to ask yourself. For an athlete in a tournament who just needs to feel good enough to play again tomorrow, maybe the answer is yes. The short-term relief is everything. But for that same athlete in the off-season, when the goal is to build strength for next year, maybe the answer is no. It all comes down to what you're trying to achieve right now. Is that immediate relief worth the potential long-term price?